everyone. Really nice to see you. So as it was mentioned, my name is Roy. I lead our core attribution product, as well as introducing Sandbox. I think we're really lucky here today and part of the India ecosystem because us as AppsFlyer being a global company, we've experienced everything that has happened with iOS, ATT, iOS 14, SKAd network, and now we're more than ready for Sandbox. So this presentation is going to focus on our learnings from iOS and how we're going to take it forward with Sandbox. I will talk a little bit about Sandbox, what's going to happen, how do we interpret things, how do we see things, and then I will be joined by Harish and Arpit that will introduce themselves later on for a kind of a fireside chat over here. Great. So the way we see it, in a good privacy solution for app developers as well as for ad networks and the ecosystem, a good privacy solution should take care of three main pillars. The first is targeting and signals, obviously the ability to do optimization. By the way, these three pillars are not mutually exclusive. They all feed into each other, right? But these are core focus areas that needs to be addressed when building a good privacy solution. So the one, as I mentioned, is targeting. The second, attribution, measurement. And as mentioned, measurement really feeds into the ecosystem and into targeting. One of the main benefits of having attribution and measurement is actually to let the ad networks know that the attribution was credited to them and the ad is bringing the desired outcomes. And then remarketing, also based on measurement, based on optimization, you're able to really retarget, remarket to the same users that already engaged with your app. We're going to see these pillars taking into action later on in this presentation. So the main question that I'm going to answer and try to answer is whether the future of Android is going to look the same as what we've experienced on iOS. And a small disclaimer, the answer, I believe, is no. But we're going to see how. So iOS, what did happen on iOS? Prior to iOS 14, ATT, everything that has went, we did a couple of surveys. And we've seen kind of intimidating results from these surveys. 74% of customers, advertisers, expected a strong negative impact over their performance. 37% lacked understanding of what's even going to happen as it was happening. And number three is that a third of our customers and advertisers plan to reduce mobile ad spend. So we can see that the market was concerned prior to ATT and iOS 14, and the market was right. This is post in the next few months after ATT has been released to the market and iOS has gone through this whole privacy revolution, I would say, or you can also see it as evolution. Ad spend on iOS dropped by 12%. This is a huge number. And then on Android, it's not like the budgets moved, transitioned to Android, but rather advertisers just kept more budget to themselves, reduced the amount of budget, and basically slowed growth. And this is something none of us wants to do. Right? We've seen income and revenue generated by ad networks has been really decreasing rapidly. We've seen those public companies that are based on that. We've seen their stocks really drop back in 2022. And we've seen a lot of ad networks and publishers trying to compensate for the loss of signals, for the loss of revenue, for the loss of everything. More real estate has been done. Impression capping has been raised by advertisers. The industry kind of tried to recuperate, but in a bad way, in a way that results in bad user experience. This is not what we want to do. And we saw that even advertisers that lead and ad networks that did lean into SKAd network really suffered. Because for those that don't know, null rate is something within SKAd network that really prevents you from understanding what the user did. So high null rates mean lack of understanding of how my campaign is doing. So if you actually leaned into it and tried to rely on SKAdNetwork, it was useless in the first few months post-ATT. But what we have seen is marketers that adapted thrived. And we've said that before, and we realized that it was true. This change, this breaking change, creates opportunity. It creates opportunity for some to be better than others, whereas things change. The main thing that we saw is that in the end, and we're going to see it also with Sandbox, now there are kind of two different attribution methods. That is what the traditional MMP, ID-based or probabilistic MMP attribution-based, and there's also SKAdNetwork. And we believe the core functionality, the core thing that has made advertisers get the real marketing picture out of both is creating a single source of truth out of both of them. Let's see what's going to happen in Android, and this is the really succinct summary of what Android is about. So remember I mentioned the three pillars of measurement, targeting, and remarketing? We really see it incorporated into Privacy Sandbox solutions. All right? So Google actually decided to promote Sandbox within these four products. But the way I see it, the way we see it, these three are solutions to privacy and presumably lack of identifiers in the future, whereas SDK runtime is another privacy solution. It's a different SDK method that is going to be used later on. But I'm going to focus on Attribution API, Protected Audiences API, and topics, explain really shortly what each of them mean and how they will affect us in the future. Starting with Attribution API. So what is it? It's an on-device attribution solution, less-click attribution solution, supported by the operating system, which is Android. And no user data is exchanged between any party. Everything is staying on the device. The main features, as we see it, one, and the MMP determines cross-network last-click. Ad networks may have last-click for their own clicks, but the only party that will be able to determine who's the cross-network last-click is going to be the MMP. Number two is flexible lookback window controlled by you guys within the MMP. All right, this is extremely important. Something, again, comparing to Scan, not supported by Scan. Up to 30 days of LTV measurement. Note, it's up to and limited by 30 days, so the ones that want 180 days, 360, not going to be supported, as far as I know. Web to app is supported from the get-go, even app to web. So cross-platform within the device is supported from the get-go. And detailed campaign and LTV breakdown. So campaign, ad set, ad, again, in-app events, revenue that was generated on the app up until 30 days. All of this is going to be supported, as well as something that's not written here, which is important, close to real-time reporting. Reporting, aggregate reporting will be sufficed within a few hours, okay? So these are all very important things, and we're going to touch on that later. This was measurement, right? So going back to the pillars, this was a measurement solution. And then we have topics, which affects mostly targeting, okay? The ability of ad networks to create ads, ad serving based on cross-app context. All right, this is extremely important in the age of privacy, and this is something that has significantly been hurt on iOS. Ad serving capabilities according to cross-app context. And this is what Topics aims to solve. So same as the Attribution API, this is an on-device solution. It's here to solve interest-based ads, which is across app, supported by the OS, and no user data is exchanged by any party. You can think of topics as just lists of human readable things like sports, or someone is interested in the news, etc. You know, this is interest-based. An app publisher app can choose to request and to query these topics and to understand what the user is interested in. And the way it's been done, the user can also opt out of all of topics or from specific topics, all right? The publisher can obviously choose whether they want to show ads according to topics or any other context that they have within the app. Protected Audiences API, this is mostly regarding the way we see it for remarketing, but also there are certain elements which are also good for just targeting in general. Again, on-device solution, audiences management and targeting solutions, enables on-device audience creation and bidding, and again, no user data is exchanged, everything is managed on the device. What are the main features? You can create an audience on device. This is huge. And then the ad network later can target these users based on the audiences that you've defined on the device, on every Android device. It's really important to say that you can create the audience via the MMP, AppsFlyer, and also the ad network can use AppsFlyer to determine audiences. So this is something that's going to be very different from the way things are handled today. Even ad networks that would want to create audiences on their platform would need to let the MMP, us, an SDK on advertiser side, they would need to let them know which audience they want to define. Okay, going forward, I think the number one question out of every single person that I talk to about this is, okay, what should we do? What should we do now? What are the next steps? So I'll try to keep it really as concrete as possible. So early Q2, we are going to release a very early stage product within our dashboard, side by side, of Privacy Sandbox attribution. Now it's going to be very limited. It's going to be based on installs, and due to the nature of Sandbox, it's only going to be limited to certain devices, Android 13 version and above, and also on the Sandbox side, things are in beta. But you will be able to start seeing with some ad networks that will support it, attribution by Sandbox, and this is a good start. On Q2, we're also going to see Protected Audiences API, all right, which is what I mentioned about the remarketing and audiences management. That's also going to be developed. And in Q4, our plans are to create an SSOT, single source of truth solution for both AppsFlyer attribution and Sandbox. So no more side-by-side. We're going to start with side-by-side, but the end goal is to create, and this is our promise to the market, this is our mission, to create a marketing picture, a unified one that includes all of your marketing efforts and what the performance is. A few more things before we dive into the fireside chat. One, do we need Sandbox if we have Google Advertising ID? So Google did not publicly express that they will deprecate the Google Advertising ID. But us as AppsFlyer and seeing the industry and seeing what's happening, Google is currently deprecating, removing third-party cookies from the web. We assume this will happen at some point in time, and it's important to understand when. We don't know. Again, this hasn't been communicated by Google that this will even happen. My assumption, not in 2024. But this is an important point. And again, coming from learnings, it is urgent to start testing and to start learning about Sandbox. The reason is, let's assume Google Advertising ID deprecation happens in 2025. It's not so long from now. It takes time to learn products, to build products, to understand how you run performance according to new products. 1 year is not a lot of time. So we do recommend doing it while Google Advertising ID is still here. If it is going to be deprecated in 2025, this is not long from now. So I wouldn't wait for the last month. this, on iOS, this is what happened to the industry, and it was not good, as you've seen. So we're helping, we're moving forward. We need the support of the entire ecosystem. Number two that I also want to talk about is Google Play Refer for installs. Again, not explicitly said, not communicated by Google. Our assumption at AppsFlyer is that this is going to stay. Google Play Install Refer is a very main method of attribution that will, if this stays, will have user level data for even post Google Advertising ID deprecation era. So even, let's assume 2025, Google Advertising ID is deprecated, GPIR stays, you're going to have a third of your users that you have user level data because it's on device. It's an on-device attribution solution. Currently, according to our benchmark, third of the attribution is according to GPIR. All right? This is an important context. And the number three that I want to talk about is ad network adoption. Again, you are the most, I have here one room with the most influential advertisers and also partly networks within the Indian market. It's very important to drive the industry forward. You have the power. The more ad networks that are going to join, the more of the flywheel that will be able to start rolling, and the more we are ready for the future changes. So it also relies on ad network adoption. That's it from my side before I invite our prestige guest. So thank you.